Okay, this was very frustrating, and I think it was probably frustrating for a few of you that saw the previous two attempts to do this. Now, I do have the audio working. I see it working right now. So if you can't hear it, I don't know what to do because last time it wasn't working, and the time before that, I had to restart the computer. It says it's working. I just tested it. So, of course, Governor Cuomo, America was never great. That was what he said. Well, let's hear the whole clip. It's a clip that has become one of the biggest gaffes of the past 20 or 30 years.
We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great. We have not reached greatness. We will reach greatness when every American is fully engaged. We will reach greatness when discrimination and stereotyping against women, 51% of our population, is gone.
Please allow me to skip the stories and the poetry and the temptation to deal in nice but vague rhetoric. Let me instead use this valuable opportunity to deal immediately with the questions that should determine this election and that we all know are vital to the American people. 10 days ago, President Reagan admitted that although some people in this country seem to be doing well nowadays, others were unhappy, even worried about themselves, their families, and their futures. The president said that he didn't understand that fear. He said, "Why, this country is a shining city on a hill." And the president is right. In many ways, we are a shining city on a hill. But the hard truth is that not everyone is sharing in this city's splendor and glory. A shining city is perhaps all the president sees from the portico of the White House and the veranda of his ranch, where everyone seems to be doing well. But there's another city. There's another part to the shining city. The part where some people can't pay their mortgages, and most young people can't afford one. Where students can't afford the education they need, and middle-class parents watch the dreams they hold for their children evaporate. In this part of the city, there are more poor than ever, more families in trouble, more and more people who need help but can't find it. Even worse, there are elderly people who tremble in the basements of the houses there. And there are people who sleep in the city's streets, in the gutter, where the glitter doesn't show. There are ghettos where thousands of young people without a job or an education give their lives away to drug dealers every day. There is despair, Mr. President, in the faces that you don't see, in the places that you don't visit, in your shining city. In fact, Mr. President, this is a nation Mr. President, you ought to know that this nation is more a tale of two cities than it is just a shining city on a hill.
Okay, so that was Mario Cuomo in 1984, the Democratic National Convention. I'm sorry about the brief audio break again. That was me this time. So, Mario Cuomo, he was governor of New York for 3 terms. I think it was lieutenant governor. I have it here. Lieutenant governor for 1 term. So, he spent, and then before that, Secretary of State. So, he spends from 1975 to 1994, he's Secretary of State, Lieutenant Governor, and Governor of New York. The state turns into a pretty big shithole during that time. There was the Dinkins mayoralty, and there was a lot of homelessness and crime, and then there were the Bensonhurst riots and all the what was it, the subway vigilante and all that. That was all during the time when Cuomo was at the height of his power in New York State government. Okay, now of course that's the city of New York, so it's not exactly like everything's his fault. But the guy is basically, at the time he's talking about it. You're you're the fucking governor of New York. And then now we have Andrew Cuomo, who is in all of these other roles. He was Secretary of HUD under President Clinton, Assistant Secretary of HUD before that. He'd been an advocacy on behalf of the homeless, an advocate on behalf of the homeless. He founded Housing Enterprises for the Less Privileged, or HELP, in 1986, and left his law firm to run HELP full-time in 1988. From 1990 to 1993, during the administration of New York City Mayor David Dinkins, Cuomo was chair of the New York City Homeless Commission, which was charged with developing policies to address the homeless issue in the city and developing more housing options. So this guy, he spends all these years basically as, you know, the Secretary of HUD, then later as Attorney General of New York, now as the governor of New York, going 8 years. Thank God I don't live in that shitty state. No offense to those of you that do live there, but he's kind of run it into the ground. Record numbers of homeless. I'll try to post a link later. And he's trying to say that America was never that great. Well, whose fault was that, buddy? Was it your fault or was it your dad's? I mean, you've been in politics for now more than 40 years now, as a father's son, and of course your dad passed away. But you've been in politics for so many years, and yet now you're saying America was never that great. Well, that's your problem. That's your fault. What did you do to solve that? Nothing. You've basically taxed your state into such a situation where people don't even want to open a business in New York State. I saw a post from somebody a few days ago who's a lawyer in I think it's in New York City, actually. He's in New York City. He said he had a client who came in to ask about advice for opening a business in the state of New York. He said the best advice he could give him was not to open the business in New York. So that's basically the story that you have to know about the Cuomos and their bullshit about all of the whole, America was never that great. Well, you've been in charge of part of America for a while, and then you want to talk about, we can't make it great until everybody's equal. Well, maybe you should shut the fuck up and give up your job to a woman. There's a woman running against you as a Democrat, Cynthia Nixon, who says that you're not making it that great. So now you want to be the guy after you've been in power for so many years, and you want to be the guy that says, I'm going to be the one who fixes it. That's just ridiculous. Okay? And by the way, the woman running against him, Cynthia Nixon, it's the same idea. It's also a woman from New York's better financed circles of people. Cynthia Nixon. You have another person on the left. So there's three people running on the left. There's Cuomo. Then there's Cynthia Nixon, also running as a Democrat, and on the Working Families Party. There's such thing in New York called the Fusion ticket, where you can run on multiple different party platforms. So they basically aggregate your votes. So you're on one ticket as a Democrat, you're on another ticket as the Working Families ticket. So she's won the Working Families ticket. She's vying to be the Democratic nominee. It could be that he ends up having to give her the nomination because he'll lose. It's possible. At the moment, I think he's been leading her in the polls. So who knows? But let's say he wins by not that much. Then it's much harder for him to win in the general election. There's also another left-wing candidate named Howie Hawkins of the Green Party, who's very, very far to the left as well. So the left is very divided. There's a libertarian running named Larry Sharpe, who I think I'm pretty impressed by him. I don't know how well he'll do. I personally would say if you live in New York State, you should vote for him. There's a Republican candidate named Mark Molinaro, who is kind of a joke, he's not going to get anywhere, and essentially the Republican Party in New York State is not worth much anymore. They've been a failure on so many levels. So if you want to change, I think over there, you should vote for Larry Sharpe. But I can't tell you what to do. I don't live there, and also I'm not a member of any party. So that's about it. Thank you for Pinochet and Ryo Shiska for tuning in. This isn't really a live stream, so to speak. I'm just live streaming it, but I'm not really going to stick around. But thanks for tuning in. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and comment when it uploads.